This is Propulsion, the podcast where we dive deep into the nitty-gritty of taking your business and your practice to the next level. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a franchisee, or a financial planning pro, you are in the right place. We're talking the latest tech, best practices, and expert insights, all while keeping it real and entertaining. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's get ready to blast off. I'm your host, Francois de Toy.
Well, welcome to the show. It's been a while. I think you were on the show in season 1, which is many years ago, like 4 years ago.
It's been quite a long time, Francois. Yes, and I love what you've done to the place. Look at it. We've got new jazzed up jingles, and you've got a new backdrop today. Fantastic segments. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. And I must say, you know, like they say, you must steal like an artist, you know, or I don't know how that saying goes, but anyway, so there's obviously some elements of what I've learned from the morning commute and, you know, sort of other things that I've done and things that we've tried that worked and that didn't work. So yeah, we're excited with where we are, and the show is evolving every single year. So very excited about that. But Adam, yeah, let's get into the conversation, because this for me is a big one, and I want to take as much time as we possibly can, because we actually got extra time because I kept the announcement so short. So I want to sort of jump into this, because the main thing at the moment is like our whole theme for this year is around simplifying. And, you know, one of the big things is that if we start thinking about technology and we sort of see where things are going and how quickly it's going, like I'm feeling overwhelmed. Somebody who loves tech and that lives and breathes tech is finding it, I can't keep up. So, you know, if I'm feeling like that, I'm pretty sure that a lot of other people who's maybe not so into tech is feeling it even worse. But now my concern becomes around, you know, so what is the impact going to be of all of this technology? Because we are always talking about how to use technology to make your life easier, how to automate things, get back your time, be more efficient, be more productive, whatever that means for you in your world. But the big question around that, Adam, is for me, like, you know, I mean, where are we headed with this? Like, is this a good thing, you know, and should we look at it maybe from a point of view like what's happening in the short term, or should we look at it at what's happening in the long term, or like how are you thinking about this at the moment?
It's a great question to start us off with, Francois. And for me, well, you and I have talked about this a few times, and you know that it depends on what mood I'm in when I wake up in the morning as to how I'm going to answer that question as well, doesn't it? Because it's quite uncertain, isn't it? The future is most definitely uncertain, because we are on the edge of something potentially incredible and exciting and changing from a whole global perspective. But then on the flip side, that's a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty, and the unintended consequences are almost immeasurable and unimaginable. You know, there are so many different ways that this scenario can play out. So some mornings, Francois, I wake up and I think, you know what, this technology and the developments in everything that we're looking at will give us huge advances in medical science. Will give us the opportunity to do things that we actually would have taken decades or centuries to achieve, and it will accelerate the pace of our understanding of everything. And then some days I'll wake up and think, I wonder how long we are before our machine overlords are actually ruling over us, and we wake up in the morning and just get told what to do all the time. And even as I'm speaking to you now, I have a machine sat just next to me. I can't mention its name because it will start ordering shopping or something like that for me. But I have a machine sat next to me that is listening in all the time. And we've integrated technology. And so the hardware is sat in many homes, isn't it? And even now, what we're doing right now, we're broadcasting on the internet. So everything that I'm saying is now being captured on the internet. And that is now fair game for OpenAI and any other large language model to actually look at what I'm saying and take my ideas and anybody else's ideas who's talking on the internet today, and millions and millions of people, and to consolidate that in just a few mere seconds. So the possibilities are endless and unimaginable when we consolidate all of that data. But then, of course, on the flip side, the biases are all there as well. Everybody's bias and everybody's maybe not quite societal norm thought that is going out into the internet is being captured as well. And all of these things get wrapped up in the mix. So slightly excited, slightly terrified, Francois, in terms of what this then does to our profession and the medium of financial planning. That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, I agree with you, and this is the thing, right? So, I mean, I tend to be on the side of I get excited. Oh, now you can do this, and oh, now I can do that, and I never could do this before. Now I can suddenly do this, and it's really amazing. But I hardly ever stand still to think about, but what's the flip side to that? What is the opposite of that? What is that also doing? And this is sort of a big question that I maybe have for you now, is that you think about, like, you and I, we develop financial advisors and planners, and like we're there to support and help them go to their next step and sort of achieve great things and build great businesses and all of those good things. I mean, that's been our world for a very long time. And I'm quite curious to sort of think about, like, what is the role of that person going to be, of that financial planning professional going to be going forward? Is it going to be, because this, on the one extreme, you have, you know, just maybe these things are taking our jobs. And on the other hand, no, it will never be, because it can't do X, Y, and Z. So I'm quite keen to sort of maybe just hear your view around that. Where are we, at least in the short to the medium term, on that specifically? Like, what's the role of the human advisor going to be in the short to medium term, with all of these AIs and terminators running around and all of that?
I think before maybe we take on the role in the short term, I'm sort of running on a working hypothesis at the moment, Francois. And have you noticed that right now, where are we? February. Everything seems a little bit busier than it did before. Everybody seems to be running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Everybody's saying that I speak to, well, it feels like we're already in September. We've got through so much. We've done such a lot. And I think we're beginning to see the impacts of utilizing AI technology, but doing it in a way that isn't mindful. And I think that the danger is, if we train these large language models in a way that isn't mindful, then the result that we get ends up being something that we don't necessarily want. And what I mean by that is that, it used to be that if I wanted to write a report for somebody, then it would take me X amount of time to write a 4-page report. Now, if I want to, I can use AI to write a 26-page report. I can write a board paper that goes into great detail in the same time it would have taken me to write bullet points of 4 pages. But the fact that I can do it, and it's a little showy off you to be able to do it, isn't it? But the fact that I can do it doesn't necessarily mean that I should. Because at the end of this 26-page report, or this email output that's going out to people that wasn't there, or this new newsletter, or this new show that's got a new script that has been written by AI technology, or these 15 new shows, because of course we can do almost endless things now. And all of this other data and content and information that is now being produced, if 20% of the financial planning population produce 20% more content simply by using AI, we're not really considering that the people who are receiving that content have got to find the time to read it. And if they are actually wanting to find the time to read it, what are they doing with the rest of their time? What are they doing with the things that they were doing previously? What is having to give in order to keep up? So we're noticing that responses to things that might have taken a little longer are now happening a little quicker in many circumstances, aren't they? You say to somebody, design me this, or write me this, or produce me this, whether it's a video or a podcast or whatever it might be, then people jump in and think, right, AI tools. But there's a natural rhythm that we are in at the moment. And that natural rhythm involves, let's have a meeting, let's organize something, let's give a project time lead in, let's do the project, then we can come back to review the results of the project at this date in the future. Well, if everything is shorter, then we don't have time to do the other things we would have been doing in the meantime. And at the moment, the focus for many seems to be on output rather than on inputs, rather than producing or finding technology that helps them deal with the quicker and higher volume of content coming back in. And I think that unbalance at the moment is, or my working hypothesis currently is that that imbalance is really the thing that is driving this feeling that, hold on a minute, things are moving incredibly quickly in 2024. And if we don't start thinking about how we deal with the incoming, then I think that is only going to become more extreme.
And I wonder if it's in our nature to just want to do, so we don't want our time back. We just want to fill that time to do more stuff in that given time. You know, it's sort of I don't know if it's a habit or it's just how we're wired, or if it's just, because I think that must have a lot to do with it. Like, oh, I can do so much more and I can do it so much more quickly. And also the other thing that I am worried about in this sense at the moment is the quality of the output as well. So apart from the input that becomes very overwhelming and you can't deal with all of that, the person receiving it is like, what is the quality? And also, like, you think about this, I mean, I think we actually dumbing ourselves down in some sense, right? Because like whenever anybody asks you anything, you sort of rush off and go and look at Google, or you go to ChatGPT or Bing, or and you start asking questions around things like, we don't learn anymore, because why do I need to? I can just quickly go and search for something, which is another phenomenon, and it's something that I am a little bit concerned about. I mean, there's lots of talk that maybe universities are not going to have a place somewhere in the future, or that kind of education, rather, let me say that. Because we've got these different ways, and there's like micro learning, and there's like just in time learning, and there's all these things. So I just need to learn it when I need it. Like, if I don't need it, why would I want to learn it? Almost kind of thing. So those are also things that are a little bit top of mind for me with regards to this. I don't know, maybe do you have any thoughts on that before we get into the short and medium term implications as well? Because I need to talk about that. But I mean, just some thoughts on that. What is the quality at the moment of all of this vast amounts of output that we're creating?
Yeah, and well, I think that a lot of people are experiencing a short-term quality boost because they can produce more and they can access so much consolidated data to produce an answer for a thing or a newsletter or whatever it might be. Now, of course, we all know that the level of accuracy is questionable, and particularly when it comes to things like financial calculations, tax, all that sort of stuff, you can't rely on AI yet to do all of those things accurately for you. So you have to know what you're talking about in order to generate something that you are confident to be able to send to your clients. But you're right, Francois, we're not necessarily thinking about what the client experience is. A lot of financial planners have thought, fantastic, I can send out a newsletter to my clients now because I can use an AI tool to do it. I've always wanted to send out a newsletter. Have we actually sat and thought about, do our clients want a newsletter? Have we asked them if they feel like there would be a benefit from a newsletter? Are they suddenly being inundated by multiple newsletters from all of these services that they've been using for years that can now suddenly deliver a newsletter? So very quickly, it becomes a little like an arms race, doesn't it? Everybody is using AI in order to generate more content. So nothing really changes. We're not differentiating ourselves in a marketplace that's quite crowded because everybody is doing it. And somebody sees another financial planning firm doing X and they think, well, we should do X. And so everybody very quickly catches up. So where the short and medium term is, I think, or the short into medium term, is a space where the majority aren't actually using the technology mindfully. And what we're doing is that we're reacting and we're trying new things out, but we're experimenting on our client relationships. And that's, for me, quite a dangerous thing. Trying new things out with live clients that we actually want to build a relationship with needs to be done very carefully and needs to be very carefully considered. But it's so easy to do that I think many won't necessarily consider whether they should do something. We're all thinking, oh, can I do this? But are we thinking, should I do this? And what value is it delivering? We've been talking already this morning about value. And is there value in it? And that's really, for me, the big question. So quality will be variable, but quality in anything is variable. But more of it will actually be easily forgotten as well. And so if you're going to stand out, now the standard won't be producing a newsletter every week because everybody can do that easily. So what are you going to do differently? How are you going to use the mechanism of AI to do something that nobody else is doing in your space, that is tailored entirely for your target clients and that delivers them 10 times value.
Yeah. And there's lots in there to think about. I'm just thinking, so obviously maybe then doing exactly the opposite is the answer, where less is more and more is not more, probably. And you're very mindful of the things, but it also means that you're going to have to make sure that you understand your clients even better. I think the biggest mistake we make often is that we think we know our clients, Adam. We think, because I've had a 10, 15, 20-year relationship with someone, that I know them. I know what they're going to say yes to. I know what they're going to say no to. I know what they like. I know what they don't like. But if you think about the number of interactions that we really have with clients, how often do you actually speak to that client? Just because you've been on my books for 20 years, I wonder how many times we've actually had a proper engagement and a proper, encounter with each other. And if you really look at that, you realize that we don't know much about these clients. They might have told you a lot in some of these meetings, etc. But their lives keep evolving. It keeps changing. There's things that happen. I know that if I haven't spoken to somebody for 3 months, the amount of things that happen to them often in those 3 months is mind-blowing. Like you can't even imagine that those things, so much has changed in such a short space of time. And we've got to keep on asking our clients about what are they looking for, because they are evolving. They are experiencing things in other areas, from banking and maybe from, I don't know, like shopping from Amazon. And if Amazon can just open in South Africa now, that will be fantastic. But whether they shop on Takealot, or however they do, they're going to experience new things, and they're going to require us to sort of, why can't we do that for them? And also, sometimes we think about how personal financial planning is. When clients are, maybe some of them are going to push for a more digital sort of way of working, and more, based on technology and things, and have more access to things. How do we then keep control of that relationship? Because the problem is that these technologies, and the more human-like they become, because that's the thing, right? So they may not have empathy, but they may demonstrate empathy. And that's pretty much, from a human perspective, probably the same thing. For many people, and like, how do we keep control of that? How do we make sure that we really focus on the relationship and not on the planning, not on the technology, not on all the other things? It's really like that heart-to-heart connection with the client. Like, how do we, like, any ideas on that, Adam?
Yeah, I find it fascinating, Francois, and I find the debate around this, because we're having a conversation that is happening all over the place right now, isn't it? And the debate will often reach the point where we'll conclude that the thing that will differentiate us from AI will be our humanity, the human connection. People will want to connect with people, and that's the thing that will actually make financial planning different from all of the other things that can be replaced by AI. I don't believe that is the case, if I'm really honest. I believe very firmly that AI will be, at some point, or at least we talk about AI like this is an amorphous thing, the outputs from large language models and AI tools, etc., will be so human-like that we will not be able to tell the difference. And that is my core central belief. And so I won't know whether I'm talking to you, Francois, or you as an AI, if you really wanted to develop that to the nth degree. At the moment, the sort of AI tools that we have available to us, you can tell it's AI. We look at our AI newsreader on the tech show that you and I produce, Francois. It's very much clearly AI. But I think we'll reach a point where we won't know the difference, or won't be able to tell the difference. So this idea that AI won't have empathy, or won't be able to at least emulate empathy in a way that we can't tell, just like other human beings can emulate empathy in a way that we can't tell if they aren't feeling empathy, exactly the same will be the case, I believe, with the technology. So where does that then leave us? How do financial planners differentiate? Well, the technology, large language models, accesses everything and all human thought that has already existed, doesn't it? And so that is its current limitation, is that at the moment, and at least for the foreseeable future, it doesn't have original thought. And for me, that's the thing that will differentiate what we do as financial planners from what AI tools can do, it isn't the fact that we can show empathy, because an AI tool will ultimately be able to reach levels of artificial empathy that exceed human empathy expression. Right now we have AI tools that can better diagnose certain cancers looking at scans than humans can. So we know that AI tools can exceed human capability in many fields, but critical thinking and innovative thought and original ideas, well, they're not out in the internet just yet. They are the things that will differentiate us. So more and more, learning how to deploy critical thinking in everything that we do in our business, and really practicing that, and I keep saying mindful practice of these things, mindfully practicing critical thinking and generating new innovative things that are targeted and focused and highly focused on our target audience. That is a thing that I believe will differentiate us and will ensure that financial planning continues in the form that it is, which is human interaction. Because otherwise, it's simply a series of AI tools just talking to each other, and we can all step back. When we think about compliance, Francois, then very shortly, AI will develop to the point at which it can file check more accurately than a human can file check, and can look at suitability of advice and determine whether advice is suitable against all of the regulatory requirements in just a few seconds. But then there'll also be a tool that, because if AI has developed a tool that can check files and check suitability, then AI will also develop a tool that can write reports and create incredibly compliant advice. And so that's just one AI tool creating something that another AI tool checks, to the point at which at some point, surely we're going to sit down and say, well, we don't need to check it anymore because the AI tool is accurate to a level that everybody is happy. So a lot of it will mean that there are a lot of these roles that won't exist anymore. But
yeah, and there's a couple of things that I want to add to that quickly before I just talk about some of the comments that the audience has made in the chat. It's that one Microsoft Copilot is coming to OneDrive, this year. So it means that it'll have access to your files, obviously, if you choose to. So again, going to the fact checking, and it'll have access to all that information. So already, although Microsoft Copilot is a more generic type of tool that we can use, there might be there's a lot that we can do with that already, and you can train it, because there's lots of things you're going to want to get into that. But already that is happening. I think the biggest takeaway from what you've said in this part of the conversation, Adam, for me, is we've actually got to be very aware and very intentional about what we do with that time that we get back. Because we can fill it up, with anything and do more of the same, which is not the thing. You said something that really jumped out at me, which was we can expand our minds. We can sort of get thinking again, and we can sort of think, like that critical thinking, and just because that's the only time you're really creative is if you do nothing, actually. You got to be, but if we forever do all these things, I don't come up with new and exciting ways to do things. So we've got to be very cognizant of the fact that when we get time back, what are we doing with it? We've got to be, one of the biggest things I think is, and the most difficult thing for me, is to say no to things and to people. When people ask me for things, I tend to say yes, because innately I want to help. But it's detrimental to me in many cases, because I don't get to things. Now, that's the thing with this. So I can fill that time and do triple what I used to do, but it's triple of the same thing, instead of doing the things that I actually were longing for to do, because I got my time back. So that was just an important point I wanted to add to that. I just want to sort of highlight here, because there was something you said which I should have brought on the comment at that point, because it was so exactly. So Frank is quoting Albert Einstein here, saying, "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots." So I'm not going to comment further on that, but it's basically what we said, right? Because we become non-thinking, just like the machines does everything. We just ask whenever we want to know something, and then no context, no deep understanding. We just move on and we just give an answer. So that's important. Russell was saying, remember, sometimes using too much tech, he did put a correction, to make things simple for the client can actually do the reverse. And I so agree with that, Adam. I mean, that's such a dangerous thing. where we almost implement tech for the sake of implementing tech, and it seems so cool. It's one of the things that I've always said, we've got to be so careful when we are like putting, let's say we create processes and workflows and things like that. We often with those things focus too much on what works for us and what makes it easier for us, and not what's making it better for the client, what's making it easier for the client. And sometimes those things don't play together. So making things simple for the client makes it harder for us. But isn't that like exactly what business is about, Adam? I mean, what do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I think actually, Francois, my view is beginning to be shaped by what I'm seeing in financial planning practices, and I'm seeing a lot of financial planning practices really beginning to adopt AI tools early on. And we're talking about taking report writing from 2 hours down to 10 minutes. I was chatting with a firm just the other day, and their reports are now taking 10 minutes when they used to take 2 hours. And so theoretically, that frees up a lot of time. But if you aren't laser focused on your ideal client, and you're just thinking, right, well, that means we can go and take on more clients, then are you taking on the right set of more clients when you're taking on more clients? Are you sat there thinking about a strategic plan? Are you thinking about how you scale your business in an effective way to actually gain the benefit from deploying these tools rather than just creating more future problems? Are you considering the unknown unknowns? And that, I think, is where we do need to take time to really think about this, because we can very quickly be carried away on a wave of, I've got so much more time, I'm now going to fill it with much of the same. Rather than saying, I've got so much more time, I've finally got the opportunity to make this the business that I want it to be, and to make my experience in life in running this business the way I really want it to be. And I do fear, I don't fear AI particularly, Francois, in spite of everything that I've said, because I think humanity is always very good at understanding what is important. I don't think individuals necessarily are, but that's maybe a conversation for another day. But collectively, I think we are. But I then think that, if we let ourselves get carried away, then there's potential for a lot of regret. And a lot of people thinking, well, actually, I still haven't got the business that I wanted it to be. And if you're running the business that you want it to be, and you're working with people that you want to work with and clients that are absolutely on your wavelength, then you will deliver a better service for them. And you will have innovative thought, and you will do all of the things that they would want you to do if you just take a moment. But actually, if you suddenly find that there's more time and just fill it with more of the same without challenging whether or not that's really what you want, then I think we'll see a lot of practices expanding, but still generating, because we only have a certain amount of capacity as humans. This is the one limitation in all of this. We have a finite amount of time. And, the computing capacity might ultimately be near infinite, but we aren't. And we still only have 24 hours in a day. And so whatever time we free up, we are still going to have to spend it. And if we don't take a moment to decide what we're going to spend it on, then actually we can end up just spending it on the same old nonsense that causes us the same anxieties and the same problems and the same regrets further down the line.
Yeah. So sort of a final question from me, Adam, is around, I mean, there's so many ways to sort of position this, what's on my mind right this second. And I think the one way is, like, if we think about this, right? So you have people that are in different phases of their business. So, on the one hand, I'm thinking about people who are close to exiting their business in whatever way, shape, or form, whether it's through succession planning or closing down or whatever it is that they plan to do, but they sort of nearing the end of their career, or they're nearing the end of their business life, or whatever it may be. And they may be sitting there, because I remember when there were some changes that came in, people were saying, like, I only have 5 years left, I'm not going to worry about this and changing this and implementing this, so sort of from that perspective, maybe ignoring where things are moving at the moment. And then also sort of coupled with that would be, what about people that are now midway through, early on, in a different phase? They're not at the exit stage or close to that. They're building the business. They've already built a great business, but they've got quite a number of years left. Any advice for them, around how to maybe approach this, or what would be the first thing for them to do next, I would say. Let's just assume that we're getting on this journey today. What would be the first things for those to maybe consider?
I'll try and be really concise, Francois, because I think it's the same at both ends of that spectrum. People who are running businesses and looking for an exit, and people who are at the very early stages, and everybody in between, is decide how much you're willing to actually commit to making the change to real critical thinking and real mindfulness in your business. And if you are thinking of an exit and your answer to that is, I haven't got the energy, I've done this for 40 years, then the least risk time to sell your business is right now, because there's going to be a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty over the next 5 years. So think on that. If you have got the energy to embrace it, then there are some really exciting opportunities. And that's exactly the same for all of those people at the beginning of their career. If you embrace this, then the opportunities, well, we can't imagine them yet, Francois. And that's the really exciting thing.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's worse than a Zoom call. Thank you very much, Adam. I think it was I really enjoyed this conversation. Again, like with everything else we do, we can talk about this for days on end, and it's such an important topic, and it's one of those topics that I feel that nobody can ignore anymore. You cannot put your head in the sand. You shouldn't put you can, but you shouldn't. You should really think about how do you learn at least some of the basics and understand where things are going. It doesn't mean that, again, because for me, a business owner doesn't really need to know the details and know exactly how to do it themselves. But you need to understand strategically where you need to go, what you need to think about. And then you can find the people who can do it for you. Whether it's somebody you employ or you outsource, whatever you do from that perspective. It doesn't matter how small or how big you are. You cannot ignore this, and if you are ignoring this, you can't ignore this for much longer. You have to think about this, because it will just one morning show up at your door, and then, it might be too late. So really embrace this, think about this, look at both sides of the coin, what's good, what's bad, think about how this is going to impact, and talk to your clients about it and see how they feel, and do it as Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us live. And if you're watching the recording all the way to this point, then just thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And we want to wish you a fantastic weekend. We'll be back next week with another great interview. And have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Propulsion. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Remember to tune in every Friday at 8 a.m. South African time for our live show called Propulsion Live. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, hit that subscribe button or the follow button and share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who you think would get something out of it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.